All right, let's be real for a sec, okay? When you hear the words self-care, what pops into your head first?
Yeah, what is it? Give me the first image.
I'm thinking like, that classic bubble bath image.
Oh, yeah.
Overflowing with bubbles, and the
Uh-huh.
cucumber slices, like,
Yeah.
so cliche.
It is. It's totally cliche, but it's popular for a reason, right?
It is. Yeah, I guess it speaks to something we all crave, maybe. Bit of pampering.
Totally. Comfort, just like a little indulgence.
Absolutely. But, I have a feeling, and maybe you do too, that there's got to be more to it than
Oh,
that.
for sure. Way more. That's just scratching the surface.
Exactly. And that's exactly why we're here today, to like really dig deep into this whole self-care thing.
We're going deep.
Forget the bubble baths for a minute. Okay, maybe not forget them entirely. They're nice, but,
Yeah, they have their place.
they do. But we're going way beyond that. We want to understand the real psychology behind self-care.
Exactly. This isn't about just those like random treats we give ourselves. This is about you and your well-being, like for real.
This is about the long game.
The long game, yeah.
So on this deep dive, our mission, should we choose to accept it, is to really unpack what self-care actually means. Like, what does it actually mean for you in your everyday life?
Right. Not just the surface level stuff, but the stuff that really matters, the stuff that affects your mental health, your emotional well-being, even your physical and spiritual health too.
It's all connected.
It's all connected, big time.
So let's start right there. When you hear self-care, what comes to mind for you?
Yes, seriously. What's the first thing you think of?
I mean, for me, it's easy to go to those, like, quick fixes. A nice hot bath, or maybe a spa day,
Yeah.
or, buying something I've been wanting. It's those instant gratification things, right?
I get it. And those things, they can be nice. They give you a little boost.
They do.
They make you feel pampered for a bit. But if we're talking about real self-care, the kind that actually makes a difference in your life, it's so much bigger than that.
Right.
It's about taking care of your whole self, your mind, your body, your emotions, your spirit. It's a whole package deal.
So it's not just about those one-off treats then.
No, not at all. It's about making yourself a priority, like really making yourself a priority. It's about knowing when you need to rest and recharge. And it's about making sure your needs are being met in a way that lasts, in a way that's sustainable.
Okay, so it's not just about, escaping from problems either,
Yeah.
right? It's not just about checking out when things get tough.
You got it. Self-care is not about avoiding reality. It's about equipping yourself to deal with reality, to handle whatever life throws at you.
So it's like building a foundation.
Exactly. It's like building a solid foundation so you can weather any storm.
All right, I love that. Now, let's talk about something that I think a lot of people struggle with, and that's emotional self-care. You mentioned that it's crucial for our mental health. But honestly, I think for a lot of us, it's the hardest part of this whole self-care thing to wrap our heads around.
Oh, for sure. And a big part of that is because we live in a society that often tells us to just suck it up, to push down our feelings and just keep going.
It's like, don't be so sensitive.
Exactly. But the truth is that our emotions are a huge part of who we are. And if we ignore them, they don't just go away, they fester.
And they can really impact our mental health.
Oh, absolutely. They can lead to anxiety, depression, all sorts of things. And we're all about taking care of our mental health here. So emotional self-care is non-negotiable.
All right, so how do we do that? What does emotional self-care actually look like in practice?
Well, it's different for everyone, right? But it all starts with acknowledging your emotions, like actually giving yourself permission to feel what you're feeling.
So instead of trying to push those feelings away.
You let them in, you sit with them, you try to understand them.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But how do we actually do that? What are some concrete examples of emotional self-care?
Well, one really great tool is journaling.
Okay, journaling.
Yeah, it's a way to process your emotions without judgment. You can just let it all out on the page.
And you don't have to worry about what anyone else thinks.
Exactly. It's just for you. And another really powerful tool is therapy.
Therapy, yeah, that could be so helpful.
It is. It gives you a safe space to talk about your feelings with someone who's trained to listen and help you work through them.
And it's not just about talking about your problems, is it?
No, not at all. Therapy can help you develop coping mechanisms, learn how to manage your emotions in healthy ways. It can give you the tools you need to navigate those tough times.
It's about understanding our emotions and then figuring out how to, like, work with them.
Exactly. It's not about getting rid of negative emotions altogether, because let's face it, that's impossible. We're human. We're going to feel the full range of emotions,
Right.
but it's about learning how to not let those emotions control us.
Okay, that makes sense. So we're not trying to be emotionless robots.
No way. We want to feel our emotions. They make us who we are, but we want to be in the driver's seat.
I want to be in control.
We want to be in control. We want to be able to choose how we respond to our emotions rather than just reacting impulsively.
This actually leads perfectly into something we touched on earlier, which is setting boundaries.
Oh, yeah. Boundaries are huge.
So important. And it's something that, a lot of people, myself included, really struggle with. So let's talk about that for a minute. What are boundaries and how do they fit into this whole self-care picture?
Okay, so boundaries are basically about recognizing and communicating your limits. It's about knowing what you're willing to tolerate and what you're not. It's about protecting your time, your energy, your mental and emotional space.
And it's not just about saying no, right?
Right. It's about being clear about your needs and expectations. And it's about being assertive in communicating those needs and expectations to others.
Okay, but sometimes that can feel really uncomfortable, like almost selfish.
I hear you. And, our society often teaches us that putting ourselves first is selfish. But the truth is, if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of anyone else.
Right. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. If we're constantly giving and giving and giving without ever taking time to refill our own cups, we're going to burn out. We're going to become resentful, and we're not going to be able to show up for the people in our lives the way we want to.
So boundaries are actually a way of protecting ourselves so that we can be better for others.
Exactly. It's like putting on your own oxygen mask first before helping someone else with theirs.
Okay, that's a good analogy. So what are some examples of boundaries that people can set in their own lives?
Well, it can be anything, really. It depends on what's important to you. But, some common examples might be setting limits on your work hours or saying no to social events that you know will drain you.
Or limiting contact with people who are, consistently negative or draining.
Yeah, that's a big one. We don't have to tolerate toxic people in our lives.
Absolutely not.
We have the right to choose who we surround ourselves with.
And that's not selfish.
Not at all. It's self-preservation. It's about protecting our own well-being.
All right, so we've talked about emotional self-care and boundaries. Now, let's move on to the mind-body connection. How does that fit into this whole self-care picture?
So the mind-body connection is basically the idea that our mental and physical health are inextricably linked. What affects one affects the other.
Right. It's not like they're separate things.
No, they're not. And so self-care means taking care of both our minds and our bodies.
Okay, so what does that look like?
Well, on the mental side, it might involve things like practicing mindfulness.
Mindfulness.
Yeah, or meditation.
Medication.
Or maybe even just taking some time each day to disconnect from technology and be present in the moment.
Okay, that sounds nice. Unplug for a bit.
Yeah, it's so important to give our brains a break from all the constant stimulation. And it also might involve things like engaging in activities that challenge us mentally.
So like learning something new.
Exactly. Taking a class, reading a book, doing a puzzle, anything that makes us think.
Okay, I like that. And what about the physical side?
On the physical side, self-care is about treating our bodies with kindness and respect.
So that means?
It means getting enough sleep, eating nourishing foods, moving our bodies in ways that feel good.
And it's not about striving for some unattainable ideal of perfection.
No way. It's about finding what works for you and what makes you feel your best.
Okay, that makes sense.
And, when we take care of our physical health, it often has a positive impact on our mental health as well.
Right, it's all connected.
Exactly. So when we exercise, for example, it releases endorphins, which have mood-boosting effects.
So that feeling after a good workout.
Yes, that's the endorphins at work.
All right, and finally, let's talk about spiritual self-care. This is another area that I think people sometimes misunderstand. They think it's all about religion, but you've said before that it's much broader than that.
It is, yeah. And, spiritual self-care is really about connecting with something larger than yourself.
Okay.
It's about finding meaning and purpose in your life. It's about nurturing your soul. And that can look different for everyone.
So it doesn't necessarily have to involve religion?
Not at all. For some people, it might involve spending time in nature.
Okay.
Or practicing gratitude.
Got
Or
it.
meditating.
Hmm.
Or engaging in creative pursuits.
So anything that helps you feel connected to something bigger than yourself.
Exactly. And spiritual self-care can be incredibly beneficial for our overall well-being. It can help us feel grounded, more peaceful, more resilient in the face of challenges.
I love that. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've talked about the true meaning of self-care and how it's so much more than just bubble baths and face masks. But there are still a lot of myths and misconceptions out there about self-care. So let's take a few minutes to debunk some of those, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay, first up, self-care is selfish. Thoughts?
This one drives me crazy.
It's such a common one.
It is. And it's so untrue. Because the truth is, self-care is actually the opposite of selfish.
Okay, how so?
Well, think about it. When you take care of yourself, when you make sure your own needs are met, you're actually in a much better position to take care of others. You have more energy, more patience, more compassion. You're not running on empty.
Right.
So self-care is actually an act of service. It's a way of ensuring that you can show up for the people in your life as the best version of yourself.
I like that. It's like you have to fill up your own tank before you can drive anyone else around.
Exactly.
Okay, next myth. Self-care is all about pampering.
Oh.
What do you think?
Well, pampering definitely has its place. And it can be a part of self-care, but it's not the whole story.
Right. We talked about that earlier.
We did. And, self-care is really about so much more than just those occasional indulgences. It's about making choices that support your well-being on a daily basis.
It's about those little things that we do every day that add up over time.
Yes. It's about getting enough sleep, eating healthy foods, moving our bodies, managing our stress levels, setting boundaries, nurturing our relationships.
It's a lifestyle.
It is. It's a way of life.
All right, and one last myth. Self-care is a one-time fix. True or false?
Oh, definitely false. Self-care is not a one-and-done kind of thing.
Right.
It's an ongoing process. It's something we have to commit to doing on a regular basis.
It's like brushing our teeth. We don't just brush our teeth once and then expect them to be clean forever.
Exactly. Self-care is something we need to do every day, even when we don't feel like it. Because, life is always throwing us curveballs.
It is.
And we need to be prepared.
We need to have those tools in place.
We need to have those tools.
All right, so as we wrap up this deep dive into the true psychology of self-care, I want to leave you with this question.
Okay, Amy.
What's one small, sustainable thing that you can do for yourself, starting today, that will help you feel more balanced, more grounded, more at peace?
Yeah, what's one small step you can take towards a more self-caring life? It can be anything. It can be 5 minutes of meditation. It can be taking a walk in nature. It can be saying no to something you really don't want to do.
It can be anything, as long as it's something that nourishes you, that fills your cup. So what will it be?
What will it be? That's the question.
Think about it and then do it.
You got this.
You do.